Good evening. I declare the Ordinary Council meeting of the 29th of April 2025 held in Council Chambers at Level 2, 388 Hay Street, Subiaco, open at 5:36 p.m. Welcome members of the public, welcome councillors and staff, and welcome to the media as well. On behalf of the City of Subiaco, I acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people as the traditional custodians of the land on which we're meeting this evening. I'll take attendances now, and I note that we've got 8 councillors and a mayor here in person for tonight's meeting, so that's really great to see. I note also that the entire 4 members of the executive leadership team are here in person, ready to assist us, so welcome to you, and we'll call upon and draw upon the expertise of other staff members as and when needed throughout the meeting, but welcome to you all. Okay, there is at least one leave of absence request that I'm aware of. Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor McMullen. I am requesting leave of absence from the 17th of June to the 4th of July. Thank you.
We'll call it the 4th. Okay, do I have a mover and a seconder for the leave request? Councillor De Vries and Councillor Kosovich, thank you. I'll put that to the vote, and we'll be using the buttons this evening. There's no lights at all on yours, Councillor. Well, look, this is the least contentious thing we'll vote on this evening, so maybe we'll all do it by show of hands for the leave request, and then we'll see if we can sort things out from there. I'll call the vote. All those in favour? Okay, the leave is approved unanimously. Disclosures. I think there's going to be at least 2. Councillor White, a disclosure on C3. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Yours.
Oh, sorry. I was voting yes instead of pressing the. Yes, I, Simon White, wish to declare an interest in item C3, proposal to include 17 places on the heritage list for this meeting. The interest I wish to declare is proximity pursuant to section 560B of the Local Government Act. I reside at 14 Coolgardie Street in Subiaco, which, under the section of 5.60B of this Act, is considered to adjoin the 3 properties identified in this agenda item on Heytesbury Road in Subiaco, despite the laneway that runs between us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And Councillor O'Connor, a declaration on C3 also, but an impartiality interest in your case, I understand.
Correct, thank you. I, Penelope O'Connor, wish to declare an interest in agenda item C3, proposal to include 17 places on the heritage list to be considered by Council at its meeting today. It is an impartiality interest, and the nature of my interest is the following properties are owned by my neighbours who I know socially, number 19 Coolgardie Street and number 83 and 85 Heytesbury Road.
Thank you, councillors. There's no more last-minute disclosures, I take it? Good. Okay. There were no public questions previously taken on notice, so we will move on to this evening's public question time. There's several. We'll begin with Monia Allegre of Redfern Street. 2 questions. Monia, welcome.
Okay, so yes, I'm here tonight. Most of you know me. I was here 4 years ago asking for the construction of an arts hub for the city of Subiaco, for the benefits of the community, everyone, for the young ones, for the older ones, for the artists, for basically everyone, and the mental health for all of us. It has been, over the years, a lot of meeting, constantly meeting with you. You have paid for a feasibility project. I don't know what you paid for it, but I'm sure that looked like a perfect document, which actually said it was feasible. But since then, nothing happened. I'm really concerned by that because I'm actually reached with my colleagues, because I'm not alone, as you know, and the question's coming, don't worry. We are exhausted now, and you managed to drown us, and we are going to stop harassing you, unfortunately. So, Mr. Mayor, I would kindly ask for clarification on why there has been no tangible progress, or would appreciate understanding any challenges or delays preventing this development. Second question is for you, CEO of Subiaco. I'm actually reaching out to you directly because I truly believe that in this room, sorry for the others, you are the one who has the most power. You are the one who's showing the leadership in your team. I would like to know how you were actually involved in the progression of this project. What have you done personally? We have had a lot of smokescreen thrown to us with little projects here and there, but nothing really happened towards that hub. So I would like to have your opinion and to see how you were engaged in it. Thank you.
Thanks, Monia. I will take the first question, and let me just thank you for your ongoing advocacy in support of the arts in the city of Subiaco. As you know, I think you know this, I would like to see an arts hub come to fruition as you would. And the arts rightfully inspire passion and enthusiasm, but I'd just ask that we park that just for a moment and look at what it takes for a local government to get a project like this out of the ground. Look, with respect, I think it's unfair and even inaccurate to speak about concern, lack of progress, feeling drowned or nothing happening, because as I hope our answers will demonstrate to you, that's not quite the case. The concept of an arts hub is in fact closer to reality now than it was when you and other interested parties first raised the idea with the city of Subiaco, because at that point it was just an idea. Local governments need more than just ideas to bring projects to fruition, and that's why the feasibility report is important. You have mentioned it, and I thank you for that, and there would be no artists hub without that first feasibility report. So at the 23rd of November 2021 OCM, I moved an elected members motion for the Artists Hub, and it requested, council requested a preliminary report on the feasibility of a city-supported Subiaco Artists Hub. And that work was diligently undertaken by staff and an external consultant. Workshops followed, and the result was a workshop, my mistake, a report to council at the ordinary council meeting in November of 2022. And at that meeting, council resolved that the feasibility report be noted and that the Chief Executive Officer commenced discussions with Development WA regarding the use and activation of buildings at the former Princess Margaret Hospital site, including the former outpatients building and the boiler room for creative industries and arts activities. Now, both of those resolutions were unanimously carried by this council, demonstrating council's commitment and interest and support of the Arts Hub initiative. But as you should also note, it did take a year to get from that first resolution to the second one, and that was not due to tardiness. There were a number of things that had to be considered in the course of getting from that first resolution to the tabling of the consultant's report. Now, looking forward, the Arts Hub by its very nature needs a location, and without a location there is no Arts Hub, and herein lies the bottleneck. There were 2 locations at Subiaco East recommended to us by our consultants, and the city and I personally have made our interest known to the state government, both at Development WA officer level and at ministerial level. Now, although we were unsuccessful in the EOI process for the former PMH boiler room, the former outpatients building was in fact the preferred site according to the consultant's report in any case, and I confirm that the City of Subiaco will participate in the EOI process for the outpatients building when it's opened by Development WA. So in that spirit, bearing in mind that it was identified as the preferable site for a future arts hub, I would urge you and other members of the creative community in Subiaco to not give up on the arts hub or having a presence at Subiaco East. In fact, it would be premature to do so given that the EOI process for our preferred site hasn't even opened yet. I'm just getting to the end of my answer to your first question, but I'll round it out, and I hope this won't be taken as smoke and mirrors because it's anything but. But I will say, I'll repeat a sentiment that one of your colleagues has said to me at one of the various events that we invite you and others to. And that sentiment was that they said to me that they realise an arts hub doesn't just happen. It needs a whole movement in support of the arts, and they can see the City of Subiaco driving such a movement. And I must say, if in the last 3.5 years we'd put all our time and energy into a Subiaco arts hub, there would have been a fair portion of the Subiaco community who would have wondered what on earth we were doing. Since then, we've done some amazing work in the arts, and I'm going to ask the City of Subiaco to describe some of that in due course. But I promise I am getting to the end of my answer. Outside of this meeting, please do review the City's annual reports, budget brochures, events program, regular print and online communications, and our very own Art Form magazine, which we launched just last year. Review the new council plan, which we're going to pass a resolution on this evening. And all of this, I hope you will agree, paints a very real and very sincere picture of a council and a city that supports and is committed to the arts. The CEO, in his answer to your second question in the next little while, will speak more about the work that's been occurring in relation to the Subiaco Arts Hub. He will foreshadow a report that will be coming to council, and although there's a lot to cover, I will ask the CEO to also run you through the city's proactive support of the arts as a means of demonstrating our good faith towards the arts and the Arts Hub initiative generally. But finally, Monia, please do stay engaged. Please do stay passionate about the City of Subiaco Art Hub, because without the passion of you and others, these types of ideas remain as just that, ideas. So thank you for coming this evening. We've heard your second question. I think I'll go straight to the CEO to ask for an answer for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's helpful if I explain the Local Government Act of 1995, Section 5.1.2 describes the CEO's executive role. And in Part 8, it states, causing council decisions to be implemented. And I take that role very seriously. In terms of the steps taken, if you ask former or current colleagues, I'm sure they'll advise you that I'm crystal clear regarding our requirement to implement council resolutions. For staff, they need to do the best of their ability if they wish to work at the city, crystal clear. The final recruitment process for all leaders is an interview with me. I explain that requirement of the Act and its importance in implementing the council resolutions to ensure a functioning local government. I seek a commitment from them in that they will lead their staff to implement council resolutions, or they are not offered the job. Elected members are regularly informed of the progress and completion of council resolutions. Public information is contained within the reports to council, annual reports, Talk About Subi, social media, and fortnightly in the Post newspaper Subi Scene, in an open, transparent and accountable manner. I'm very confident staff have done their utmost to implement all council resolutions since the 16th of August 2021, including the 2 council resolutions as described by the Mayor. In terms of my personal actions to lead the City Arts Hub, there are many to describe, but in short, I engaged with the consultants Roberts Day Hatch, worked with staff before, during and after the report to council. I've liaised with Development WA on both the boiler house and the former outpatients building. I've worked with staff in the preparation of the report relating to the upcoming Development WA expression of interest, likely to be at the next Ordinary Council meeting. It is important to recognise that a suitable facility is something that takes time for local government. That's usually what takes the most. As was the case in my previous role, I worked to secure the former Midland TAFE campus that was formerly controlled by the Midland Redevelopment Authority to establish the Midland Junction Arts Centre. In the meantime, we're fortunate to have just a few kilometres away the Tresillian Arts Centre at 21 Tyrrell Street, Netherlands, and I understand this information has been shared with you. It is also not unusual for community groups to find suitable locations for a particular activity or work hard in establishing an initiative. A recent example is the Women's Shed, who were able to secure a location at 315 Bagot Road with limited support and a small grant from the city. Whilst the Development WA EOI is an exciting prospect for the city, we haven't put all our eggs into one basket, and we are looking at a range of other options to complement this opportunity. The city will soon appoint architects to progress the redevelopment of the council chambers and administration at 241 Rockaby Road in our civic precinct, with opportunities for art exhibition space to be considered. Further, the city has secured land in Mount Claremont with the City of Vincent and the town of Claremont to develop a new depot, likely to include secure and appropriate storage facilities for city assets, including art and museum pieces. The Mayor suggested I outline a range of initiatives and projects relating to arts more broadly, and I've been involved with many of these projects, particularly in liaising with elected members during the planning and implementation by our excellent staff, contractors and volunteers. So just a few examples, the Giants of Mandurah, Billy Bob in Theatre Gardens, art form publication launched in 2024 at the Orangery in Shenton Park, and I understand the next edition features an article of yourself, which I look forward to reading. Artform is an EDM, so electronic direct mail, a communication tool for artists, keeping the sector up to date on program, projects and opportunities. The Sean Town Awards for young artists each year. Subi Blooms. The last 2 years, we've engaged a range of different artists for installation pieces. Subi Night Market's been a great success over the last 2 years, particular focus on arts and culture, including exhibitions by John Julius Art Gallery. We've also partnered with a Fringe Festival and many performances by local musicians and art house and community cinema. The museum artist in residency, we had Indigenous artist Dana Garnett recently. No More Blank Walls, which are 11 new murals in the city, 15 artists and over 47,000 people attended the programs, which has led now to mural tours that we do, which is outstanding. Eat Shop Live is a magazine we do 2 to 3 times a year, and that has a high quality, it's a high quality publication, and it certainly captures the culture and vibrancy of Subiaco with a very wide distribution. The Temp Gallery, which was a pop-up gallery created by Kate Parker on Rockaby Road. Is Walmsley Windows incorporated local artists' work in the first Green Walks Laneway project. Subi Pop, the poster walk, we reimagined the 1996 artwork by school children, which was due to the tree disturbance of the significant tree there, the roots. And in addition to that, there was artwork by Jenny Dawson and Sandra Hill, and artist Robert Firth created a new entrance from Park Street and a new gate at the post office. Subi Pop Forest Walk, the redevelopment, included formed concrete seating by Jan Rees, and Sharon Egan inspired earth, fire and water. Six Seasons Biddy Trail, certainly working with Development WA. We've also had a range of Percent for Art projects, which is incorporated within Seddon Street, as you would see. Community artworks, including Rosalie Park murals, footpath artworks. The Pre-Loved Markets, which is upcycle fashion market on Seddon Street. Subiaco Art Centre and Regal Theatre. City regularly partners with its 2 existing performing arts centres, understand their importance and cultural significance as infrastructure in the city. Space Market, we've recently partnered with them as a place activation for vacant commercial premises, and shortly commence featuring local artists, which is pretty exciting. The city also partners with many, including in the cultural sector, the West Australian Opera, Perth Festival, Art Rage Fringe Festival, Form, Blank Walls, Perth Comedy Festival, Black Swan Theatre, Yiri Yakin and Barking Gecko, just to name a few. This is merely a snapshot of the programs and projects in our city to add to a rich cultural sector and experience much loved by our residents and our visitors. Our staff work hard to embed and explore cultural arts through community programs, library services, museum programs, education programs, planning policies, economic development and place initiatives, and capital projects every day. Few local governments across Australia could demonstrate a comparable commitment to arts. In summary, I'm proud of the work the many talented artists have collaboratively worked with the city, arguably perhaps the best in the state and beyond. Whilst there is still much to be done, I'm confident the city will be able to deliver an arts hub and foster grassroots participation.
Thanks, CEO, and to all those listening, you've heard it here first. The CEO has said he's confident the city will be able to deliver an arts hub. So, Monia and the rest of the creative group that you're a part of, please don't lose hope and continue to stay in touch with us, and we hope to see you at some future arts-related events. Okay, we better get on to something else, but thanks for attending. The next public question comes from Jennifer Selfinger of Heytesbury Road, Subiaco. A question on C3. Welcome, Jennifer. Okay, we might just adjourn for, I'm going to say 5 minutes.
Just check. What time is it? You're all working?
Okay, given mine might be the only microphone that's working, we better get it working. I'm going to say we'll adjourn. The time is 5:58. We'll adjourn for 5 minutes and we'll be back on at 6:03 p.m. of Heytesbury Road, Subiaco. Your question on C3, please.
Thank you. Go ahead. Now I can talk? Okay. My question was meant to be read out after my statement. It doesn't make sense on its own. It's just sort of floating. So I might have to give a very brief introduction. In view of the amount of money that my husband and I have spent restoring our home to heritage level, he is a London builder who spent 3 years training in Germany and is very high calibre in everything he does, wins awards, and everything in our home is bespoke. Would it be possible to add something as minuscule as a date plaque? Could that be on the heritage funding to match our letterbox? Sorry.
Thanks for the question. Director, Development Services.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Great. Thank you for your question. So our heritage grants have been around for a while now. We are going through a bit of a process to review them, but I have to give you the answer as the grants are at the moment. They are normally for conservation works and conservation works which are in the public view that enhance the heritage significance of a place and or are really urgently required for structural reasons. So as conservation works retain the cultural significance of a place, a date plaque would not normally be considered as conservation work, so it wouldn't generally fit within a heritage grant.
Okay, the final question comes from Peter McDonald of Onslow Road, Shenton Park. A question on C1. Welcome, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, councillors. C1 contains a lot of red ink on the existing LPPs. My question is, the report for C1 states that for sub-precinct 4 areas, it's proposed the building height provisions be removed and that they be replaced with setback provisions to achieve a similar outcome while providing more flexibility. It goes on to say that on wider lots in SP4, development may achieve 3 storeys while meeting the required increased setback, noting the increased setback reduces the impact of a 3rd storey on an adjoining low-density property and therefore achieves the intended outcome. Now, the question is this: in cases where a developer has aggregated multiple contiguous R60 coded narrow lots, with the result that, for example, the aggregated lot has a street frontage of 38 metres and an area of, say, 1320 square metres, which would be a substantial lot, are there any circumstances where the proposed amendments to LPP 1.1 would permit a multi-residential building height in either metres or storeys that's any greater than permitted under the existing LPPs? That's the question. Oh, thank you.
Thanks for the question. Director, Development Services.
Thank you, and thanks for reading through the policies. They can be very complicated, and we do our best to try make them as easily readable as possible. So in terms of the changes, we didn't actually change any of the building heights for apartments or multiple dwellings, so they're actually staying the same. The maximum permitted heights remain the same for R50 and 60 at 3 storeys. The controls in LPP 1.2 are just simply shifting over to LPP 1.1 because the R codes have changed and they read together with the R codes. We did change some of the heights for group dwellings, so townhouses. So for a lot size of 1,320 square metres, as you said, a 3rd story would need to be set back at least 9 metres. So for most lots, and it's even one at that size, a 3-story townhouse might be unviable. But in the case that they are viable, we feel that the 9 metre setback of that 3rd story is probably going to be minimising any of the impacts on the adjoining lower density areas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that brings us to the end of public question time, so we'll move on to public statements. There was one statement submitted within time, one submitted outside of time, but I'm happy to hear them both. They both relate directly to C3. So the first statement comes from Jennifer Selfinger of Heytesbury Road. A bit more context for your question, perhaps. Question on C3, thank you.
I am the owner and occupant of 83 Heytesbury Road and am concerned about the proposed heritage listing of my home. I am a visually impaired stay-at-home mother of 3 children who all go to school locally. My husband is a London builder who trained in Germany. He and I have gone to tremendous effort to restore, not just renovate, our home to heritage level. However, we still need to remove the asbestos blocked-in back veranda at the rear to better accommodate our family. Our 4-roomed cottage is on a very small block of land, 324 metres squared. It has a very low roof line compared to other homes in the area of a similar age, whose roof lines are up to twice as high as mine, and who have been fortunate to be able to accommodate spacious modern loft extensions within their larger roof spaces, extensions that do not exceed the sight lines because of the height of the original roof. The heritage policy is not clear on lower roof lines of smaller cottages. There is no consideration in the policy to accommodate a small addition at the rear of homes such as ours. A home with a step down in the extension is not acceptable for my needs. If our home was heritage listed, we would require discretion in our plans of an extra 52 centimetres to 1 metre in height to accommodate the extra rooms, as there is no space to expand horizontally on this block. At the last council meeting, the conversation was about character extensions with a delineation between to highlight the old and new. It was agreed this was acceptable, which was exactly what our family needed to hear. If I am allowed to build the extension my family of 5 need, then I will be comfortable not objecting to the heritage listing. We love living in our street of character homes. It has a real village feel, and it would be advantageous to everyone to protect this row of 5. However, this proposal, heritage listing, should not come at the risk of preventing my family from being accommodated in a more suitable home. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't normally provide answers to public statements, but there are some written answers provided by the Director of Development Services. We might try and flesh out those in the course of debate on C3, but we'll just work through the public statements for now. So thank you for yours. We'll hear the next statement on C3, a statement from Jerry and Pat Forsland of Salisbury Street, Subiaco. Okay, they're not here, and it doesn't look like there's anyone to read it, so we'll move on. That's the end of public statements, and there were no approved petitions or deputations. So, councillors, I'll ask you to confirm minutes of previous meetings. We've got a single set of meetings, being those of the Ordinary Council meeting of the 18th of March 2025. Do I have a mover and a seconder to accept those minutes? Councillor Johnston, thank you, and Councillor Jones. I'll put that to the vote now. Fantastic. Those minutes are accepted unanimously. Okay, now it's time for announcements. It's been a busy period for events and upcoming event launches, but the announcement I'll make relates to a new management order that the city's been granted. Effective the 18th of March 2025, the City of Subiaco has a management order over Crown land at John 23rd Avenue, Mount Claremont, WA, which is the site of a former Western Power depot. an advocacy focus of City of Subiaco staff since at least 2021. This land will be used to construct a new fit-for-purpose municipal depot, consolidating our current makeshift depot, which until now has straddled multiple sites on short-term leases at Mount Claremont, and which, while functional, has presented ongoing logistical challenges. In short, the new management order will help the city to meet and exceed its service levels now and into the future. And similar management orders have been granted to the City of Vincent and the town of Claremont. These two local governments, along with the City of Subiaco, are now engaging with each other to explore opportunities for shared infrastructure and operational efficiencies. And this collaborative approach will contribute to responsible resource management and potentially even alleviate some pressure on rates into the future. So we find ourselves here as a result of the collaboration and good working relationship between staff from the City of Subiaco, City of Vincent and town of Claremont. We're very pleased to have worked with these other local governments, and we look forward to ongoing synergies at Mount Claremont. Now, of course, being Crown land, the management order required ministerial sign-off. So the CEO and I have written to John Kerry MLA in his capacity as Minister for Lands to express our thanks to him and to acknowledge Western Power for their cooperation and DPLH staff too. And it would be remiss of me not to finish by at least acknowledging and thanking our own City of Subiaco staff. So well done to all involved. There's some good things ahead for our service provision as a result of securing this management order. Okay, councillors, it's now time to move on to the decision-making part of the meeting. And at the moment, I've got a possible en bloc vote in front of me on the basis that these agenda items contain no special voting requirements and are not the subject of any amendments or alternatives. The possible en bloc vote would consist of items C5, C7 and C8. And just to clarify, C5 is included in the possible en bloc vote because although Councillor De Vries did submit an amendment, I understand you'll no longer be moving that. So it falls into the possible en bloc vote along with the other items. So just to confirm, it's items C5, C7 and C8. Councillors, are there, does anyone wish to remove any of those items from the en bloc? Councillor Powell.
Yes, Mayor, I think I'd like to remove C5 because I think we should discuss it. Should point out the work that's been done on it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll make it so. The en bloc vote therefore consists of items C7 and C8. Does anyone wish to remove either of those items from the en bloc? No? Good. Okay, we'll put the en bloc vote to a vote. Just confirming it's items C7 and C8. I'll call the vote now. Yeah, right. Thanks, everyone. Is there a mover and a seconder for the en bloc vote? Councillor De Vries and Councillor Jones. Now I'll call the vote. Okay, thank you. The en bloc items carried unanimously, meaning that items C7 and C8 have been carried without debate as per the officer recommendation on those items in the agenda. So we'll now move through the remaining items for this evening's meeting. Beginning with C1, the draft amended local planning policy 1.1, residential development for low and medium density. There is, of course, an officer recommendation on this, but an amendment's been submitted by Councillor O'Connor. But I will see if there's a mover and a seconder for the officer report in the first instance before we get to amendments. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor De Vries moving, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Jones. Councillor De Vries, do you want to speak to it? Councillor Jones, no. Okay, there's not much to debate against at this point, so I think we'll test your amendment, Councillor O'Connor, and then we'll have a discussion about the item. We'll have you moving, and is there a seconder for Councillor O'Connor's amendment on C1 as submitted and circulated? Councillor Kosovich, thank you. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen. This policy is fundamental in helping to maintain the character of Subiaco. It's part of a suite that we have. And I understand there was a great deal of work done by the community as part of the development of LPP 1.1. One of the important elements for me is this policy was the development of the precinct character statements for Jolimont, the Triangle, West Subiaco and Shenton Park, all clearly identifiable areas of importance in Subiaco. And as the name suggests, these statements are high-level descriptions of the character of these areas and highlight the general scale and form of the built environment, the land uses that dominate, and also features that can detract from the character of those areas. So my concern about moving the character statements to become an appendix of LPP 1.1, as was proposed, is that this valuable information may not then be able to be used to apply the policy. And for that reason, I'm proposing that the character statements actually remain part of the policy rather than as an appendix. As I was reading the policy closely, it also became, I was concerned that it wasn't clear to me, and therefore may not be clear to residents, how the character precincts were intended to be used in applying LPP 1.1 and what the relationship was between the character precincts and the sub-precincts. So this amendment seeks to the addition of a clarifying statement on this issue, and clarity is really important because this is a really dense and complex policy with many elements and considerations. It's a fairly hard read, and it's important that we work to make our policies as clear as possible to owners so they know what it is we're trying to achieve and what matters are going to be considered. So I recommend this to you.
Thank you, Councillor Kosovich. Nothing to add. We don't need to debate the amendment any further unless councillors want to debate it. Councillor Powell.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions if I can. One relates to one of the questions that was asked at the start of the meeting from the gallery, and it's just to clarify that where there are multiple dwellings with townhouses, that 3 stories will be the maximum height, that there's nothing more possible under that R60 coding. Is that correct?
So just to clarify, does that relate to the amendment or to the substantive item, Councillor Powell?
It relates to the substantive motion, which...
Okay, does it have a bearing on how you'll vote on the amendment?
Yes, I think it does.
Director of Development Services.
Thank you, and through the Mayor. So for multiple dwellings, the maximum height remains at 3 stories, and for group dwellings, it is also 3 stories with 9 metre setback.
Thank you. That was just for a point of clarification. Look, I do have another question as well, though. I think, as Councillor O'Connor mentioned, there was a lot of community input into this. So I'm wondering whether the 3 weeks might be a bit too short a time to take this back to the community, and whether there's anything wrong with 6 weeks advertising, and whether Councillor O'Connor might be willing to take on an extended period for advertising with her amendment.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you wanting Councillor O'Connor to add in an extended advertising period as part of her amendment, which is on matters unrelated to the advertising period?
No, I'm asking whether it can be, whether she is willing to take on both the officer recommendation and the amendment. Both refer to a 21-day period of advertising. I'm saying that because of the amount of community input that there was into this, you know, wouldn't it be better for there to be an extended advertising period, because there's a lot of changes, and the community, the people who are involved in that might...
Sure, but I'll just stop you there, Councillor. At the moment, the officer recommendation envisages advertising not less than 21 days. Councillor O'Connor's not proposing any change to that. What are you asking Councillor O'Connor to consider as part of her amendment?
To change that to not less than 42 days.
Yeah, righto. Councillor O'Connor, how do you feel about changing your amendment, which, as described? I suppose there's no reason we can't do it, but yeah, what do you think?
Well, through you, I'd like to ask a question about what the possible implications of extending that consultation period might be.
Director of Development Services.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So when we originally put this policy up to advertising when it was created through the Community Working Group, it was advertised for 28 days. Now, extending this to 6 weeks, given the changes really aren't changing too many of the planning instruments and the built form controls, it's probably too much. I mean, it's going to take us a bit closer to the caretaker period and all that sort of stuff to allow us to finalise the policy. We've put minimum 21 days. We can take it from me that if there's a notion of at least 1 month, then that's something that we can do without changing the resolution. So if you'd like to change it, you've got it on recording now that we'll do it for at least 28 days. I will leave that in council's shoes.
Sorry, before you express a view on that, I'm just thinking this through, Councillor O'Connor. You've rightly submitted an amendment in accordance with the meeting procedures within time. It's now been moved and seconded as submitted. I think the thing to do, if there is an appetite to explore this, would be to move an amendment from the floor after we've dealt with your amendment, which deals with quite different things. Okay, if you're happy with that, we'll deal with your amendment, and then we'll turn our minds to the advertising period. And Councillor Powell, you may wish to see if there's a seconder for that motion, or someone else may wish to try it. But I think we should focus on the amendments that's in front of us for the moment. We've heard from Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Kosovich hasn't spoken on the amendment. I'm happy to hear from anyone else who wishes to speak on the amendment, but otherwise I'll call the vote on the amendment. Okay, I'll call that now. Okay, the amendment's carried 8-1. Councillor Power dissenting. There are no amendments submitted in relation to this item, but Councillor Powell, did you want to move an amendment from the floor?
Yes, I will, thank you, Mayor. But should I speak to the item first, do you think?
Not unless you get a seconder. I think we've got the gist of it. You're going to be proposing an advertising period of not less than 42 days or 42 days flat. What's going to be the proposal?
I'll take the advice of the Director of Community Services and say 1 month.
Okay.
28 days.
Unless it's February, perhaps we should say not less than 30 days.
No, okay, not less than 30 days.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burns. Councillor Powell, do you want to speak to the amendment?
Yes, look, there was a lot of effort put into developing this local planning policy 1.1. It came about after the forced imposition of those modifications to LPS 5, and essentially where you had R15 single residential abutting R100, which was just a terrible planning decision. But the minister left it, told us that we had to fix it up, and that resulted in LPP 1.1. And look, there was an awful lot of work put in, especially in regard to one of the areas which is in this report, which is the height of buildings. And it looks like now the state government is once again intending to change the rules so that it's no longer going to be height, which is what the community had agreed to. It's going to be setbacks. So to me, that is quite a change. There's a lot of people, as I said, who had a say in this. And I don't think 3 weeks is long enough for them to be able to actually go through all that red ink and try and figure out, where they stand with this. So I think giving them at least a minimum of a month will allow them to be part of what they originally were, and that's the local planning policy 1.1, and will allow our community to still have its say. And that's by the way, councils have been gutted out of the planning thing. That's the only thing we've got left. is local planning policies. So I would ask my fellow members to support having a bit more time to hear what the community thinks.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I think it's an excellent idea. I'm glad somebody raised it. So thank you, Councillor Powell. Councillors, by the time people hear about things, you know, I mean, once you get wind of something, and then you normally, you know, people are often complaining to me that, you know, they heard of something and now they've got 2 days to, you know, have their say on it. So any lengthening of time satisfies me. So obviously I support it by seconding it, and I'll leave you in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against the amendment? Councillor De Vries.
Yeah, well spotted there, Councillor Powell. I think we do need to make sure the community have a decent amount of time to respond. And obviously word of mouth is often how people hear about these sort of issues. And I think it just gives everyone a chance to understand what is happening at the local government level and the kind of changes that essentially we're being forced to make and take. And I think it is also respectful to the fact that we have a very engaged community, and one that, you know, I think we benefit from. So thank you so much, and I fully support it.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against the amendment? If not, I will call the vote because we don't close on amendments. So I'll call the vote now. Very good. The amendment's carried unanimously. So advertising will now take place for not less than 30 days, and we've got an amended resolution being the officer recommendation plus the amendment submitted by Councillor O'Connor and the amendment moved by Councillor Powell. Do I have any speakers for the amended item? The amended item, the amended substantive item. Councillor Burns. We're debating the main item as amended by the two amendments.
Thank you for clearing that up. It's a question to start with. The subject to a question from the gallery, and it's been mentioned now 2 or 3 times. Can I have a little more information on the nature of the third story 9 metre setback, whether there's any discretion with regards to, obviously there's discretion in setting it back further, but is it non-arbitrary that 9 is thing? I'm just not personally somebody that likes things set too much in stone, not saying that I want things moved forward, but sometimes architecturally they can be beneficial. So a little clarity if I could indulge your worship. No, well, thanks. Yeah, I'll take it. Okay. Yeah, right. I'll leave it said.
Director of Development Services, I'll take an answer from you or the acting manager.
I can jump in on this one, no worries, and through you, Mayor. Look, obviously the policies provide that setback. There is always a design principle assessment, but that would need to be based on some sound methodology as to why that there is a change to that 9 metres. So it can go forward or back.
Does anyone wish to speak to debate the item? Councillor Powell, some questions.
Yeah, I've got one more question. And this is for clarification from, I think, what's been correspondence and from what was raised last week at the briefing forum as well. Will there be any direct communication with the people who've been impacted, perhaps even only in a small way, from changing from the precincts? From changing from one precinct to another precinct? I think there was a small number of residents who were.
Director of Development Services.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Given the policies are wide-ranging, we didn't have that planned, but we can take a look at that through the consultation that we do to see if there is a way that we can contact people. Unfortunately, the only way that you can really do it is by sending people and those properties letters, and it's something that we can have a look at before advertising.
I was going to say, it would only be a small number of people, wouldn't it? There's not a huge number of people affected.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, that's correct. There's only a small number of people, so that's why I'm thinking it's something that we could do before we advertise and get in contact. Send them a letter before the policies are advertised, so they're well aware.
Any questions? Any speakers? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen, Your Worship. Just for clarity, through you, did I understand that we will be sending, or we're thinking about sending? Could I have a yes or no on that? I didn't sort of get it.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. We think it's achievable, so we will be sending it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other speakers on the item? Okay, Councillor De Vries, you moved, so you've got an opportunity to close. No? Okay, we'll call the vote on C1. C1's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to C2. As per C1, we've got the officer recommendation and an amendment submitted by Councillor O'Connor. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer recommendation? Councillor Johnson, thank you. Seconder to get things underway. Councillor De Vries, thank you. Councillor Johnston, did you want to speak at this point? Councillor De Vries? Okay, we'll move straight on to the amendment. Councillor O'Connor, we'll have you moving, and we'll look for a seconder for your amendment as submitted. Councillor Burns, thank you. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen. My concerns about moving the precinct character statements to an appendix are the same for this item as they were for C1, that it then becomes unclear how or whether this valuable information can be used in applying LPP 1.2. Again, the relationship between the precinct character statements and the sub-precincts is unclear, so my amendment proposes a clause that clarifies this matter. In this case, I'm also proposing that this policy is advertised for public comment. While I appreciate the changes are largely required due to changes to the R codes, I feel that public advertising is important, bearing in mind the level of community engagement previously on this matter. Thank you.
Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen. Councillors, look, just briefly, I thank Councillor O'Connor for bringing this. Anything that's offering clarity and anything that's informing the public can't be seen as anything other than just simply sensible and good. Thank you.
Any other speakers to the amendment? Okay, I'll call the vote on the amendment. Okay, that's carried unanimously. Very sensible, very good. C2, as amended, we will now move back to the debate on C2. So we've got the officer recommendation as amended by Councillor O'Connor's amendment. Do we have any speakers? I'll take speakers for or against C2 as amended. Okay, there's very little to close on, but Councillor Johnston, you can take the opportunity. Okay, I'll call the vote on C2. Excellent, C2 is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to C3, a proposal to include 17 places on the heritage list. This time we've got an alternative submitted by Councillor De Vries, which we, of course, won't get to debating unless C3 is rejected. Thank you, Councillor White. Yes, we'll call you back in when we've dealt with C3. Okay. We'll see what that is in a sec, but we'll just get a mover and a seconder to get this report on the table. Mover and a seconder for C3. Councillor O'Connor, thank you, and Councillor Kosovich. Look, I think we'll hear the mover and the seconder speak, and then we'll see if they want to take your amendment on board or whether we need to debate it. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor McMullen. I'd like to thank the owners that made submissions in writing here and in here today. Hearing your views and perspective is such an important part of our decision-making process. What's been encouraging to me in those comments is what owners have not been saying. They're not saying heritage listing will devalue their property, and for the most part, they're not saying their property does not have heritage value. And I think that says a great deal about how far we've come as a community, because it shows that people value heritage and that heritage properties have value. And this is reflected in the city's market scorecard, which shows heritage is widely valued in our community. Where there are concerns and reservations, these predominantly relate to the perception that heritage listing will prevent or make it difficult to make changes to heritage properties. In my work in the heritage industry over the past 30 years, this concern comes up a lot, and in many respects it's understandable. But I would like to assure people that the objective of heritage listing, whatever form it takes, is not to stop change. And that applies whether it's listing as a group or part of a heritage area or as an individual building. Heritage places need to be cared for. The worst thing that can happen to a heritage property, that it's neglected and unloved. And it's wonderful to see that so many of the owners of the properties we're looking at today have gone to such great lengths to conserve and restore their properties. And I thank some of them for sharing their properties with me. What heritage listing does aim to do, first of all, is celebrate our heritage through recognition of cultural heritage values, and then to try and conserve those values, which are different for every place, as outlined in the heritage assessments before us. But conservation does not mean that an owner is going to be required to keep an asbestos lean-to. Just as it is with other properties, heritage properties have to be allowed to change, to be adapted and updated. They will inevitably need upgrading, modernising and extending often to meet contemporary expectations and sometimes also standards. Heritage listing does not prevent this, and there are many examples of heritage places in Subiaco that have been extended and modernised in ways that meet the owner's expectations. What heritage listing does do is it ensures that changes are looked at more closely to make sure they're not going to damage or have a negative impact on the heritage that is valued. And sometimes that damage can occur quite innocently from actions that can appear quite benign, like putting cement render or paint over limestone, which can trap moisture in your foundations, cause rising damp, and worse, cause your foundations to deteriorate. And this is one of the benefits of being on the heritage list, is that you can get free advice from one of our highly experienced heritage architects. One of the concerns I see in the submissions is also about the style or design of extensions, and the principles here are sometimes hard to understand. When new elements are added to a heritage building, and particularly in the case of extensions, it's important they don't mimic the old parts of a building. And the reason this is important is that so that people can see what's old and what's new. If everything looked exactly the same and you can't tell what's old and new might be valued the same. This is why the key principle is that new elements should be able to be distinguished from the old on close inspection. But that does not mean that new elements like extensions have to be dramatically modern or dramatically different or have modern finishes or treatments or roof lines. Traditional roof lines are actually actively encouraged under planning guidelines that apply in many parts of Subiaco and not just heritage areas. Extensions can have a similar shape and form to the old part of a building, but can be identified as new in a number of ways, such as more simple detailing, a change in the colour of the brickwork. Again, the architects on Subiaco's Heritage Advisory Service can provide advice on many different ways an extension can be sympathetic and yet not be an imitation. I understand that for some of you, no amount of reassurance from officers and councillors will ever be enough to allay your concerns. But I'm confident that if this resolution passes and your properties are added to the heritage list, you'll find that the consequences are minimal and that there are significant benefits. And for this reason, I support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Kosovich.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin by thanking our planning staff for their great work under the astute leadership of Director Alex Petrovsky on this critically important planning submission for the Subiaco community. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Councillor Penny Connor for taking the lead in moving this officer recommendation. Penny is a heritage practitioner and a subject matter expert on heritage-related planning issues, and the Council is very fortunate to have her as an elected member who is able to expertly advise and guide us through these important deliberations. I strongly support the officer recommendation to include the 17 dwellings in the heritage list as per local planning policy 3.2 assessment of cultural heritage significance. Given the considerable significance of these properties, it is crucial that they be recognised and protected for their heritage value. The inclusion of these dwellings on the heritage list will not only preserve the historical character of our city, but also contribute to the cultural richness and identity of the community. A heritage listing enhances property values, attracts tourism, and fosters a sense of pride among residents. While I understand that some objections have been raised regarding potential restrictions on future development, I'd like to underscore that a heritage listing does not prohibit or necessarily impede development, a point stressed by planning staff throughout the consultation phase of these property assessments. Instead, it ensures that any developments or changes are carried out in a manner that respects and preserves the heritage significance of the properties. This can include the demolition or non-contributory additions and the construction of sympathetic new additions, allowing for evolution while maintaining historical integrity. Moreover, due to the extensive consultation already undertaken and assurances provided by planning staff in relation to renovations to all of the property owners, I see no reason to delay these property assessments by another 16 months, as has been mooted in the alternative on the table for consideration tonight. As an essential part of my due diligence, I visited the block of 5 houses on the southern side of Heytesbury Road included in the officer recommendation. That is numbers 79, 79, 77, 79, 81, 83 and 85, extending east from Coolgardie Street. These tuck-pointed row of houses are a notable example of Subiaco's character, showcasing the area's architectural heritage and without doubt contribute to the suburb's unique identity, charm, and have been assessed by experts to be culturally heritage significant. I also spoke with the proud owners of 77 and 79 Heytesbury Road, who are not only keen to have their renovated and restored homes heritage listed, but will be seeking council assistance by way of a heritage grant to complete the facade restoration of 79 Heritage Heytesbury Road in the near future. Accordingly, I now urge Council to support the officer recommendation and include all 17 dwellings on the heritage list. By doing so, we can continue this important work to protect the city's cultural heritage for future generations, while still allowing the thoughtful development and adaptation in DAs in heritage areas coming before Council. In conclusion, I implore councillors to stay committed and true to our heritage policies, despite challenges or pressures being brought to bear on you to do otherwise. Our community's trust and investment in these policies must be respected and upheld. Let us continue to build on the foundation laid by our predecessors and the tireless work of community leaders like Maxine Prentice and Linda Rogers, aided and abetted by the significant efforts of former councillor Scott Arbuckle on Heritage Landscape, not to mention the unstinting work of Jackie Greenshields and wanting to ensure every scrap of heritage in our city is salvaged and maintained, all of which has been instrumental in shaping our heritage policies, ensuring that Subiaco remains a shining example of heritage conservation in Western Australia.
Thank you, Councillor. Just so we know what we're debating, Councillor Burns, you've foreshadowed a possible amendment. If you can just give us the thrust of it, we'll see if there's a seconder.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen. The minor amendment would be at 1B 10, Roman numeral 10, and that would be to remove 83 Heytesbury. The matter was spoken to by the owners. I believe the property is in very safe hands and its heritage is speaking for itself. And don't want to remove it?
Well, look, it's simple in terms of the number of words that would be moved, Councillor Burns, but would there be a seconder for that kind of amendment from the floor, I think is the pertinent question for councillors. Okay, Councillor Johnston seconding. Does the mover and the seconder of C3 want to take that on board? If not, that's fine. We can debate the amendment. Okay. In that case, Councillor Burns, you can speak to your amendment, and Councillor Johnston will have an opportunity as well if she wishes.
Okay, I'm on eggshells here because I'm looking to the gallery when I should be looking at the mayor. We've had that one discussion before. So I'm going to look out of the corner of my eye to see if I'm getting waved off here before I land. In or out? Pardon? Stay in? Okay, well, I'm not going to speak that strongly to it, but I have put it forward and I'm not withdrawing it, so I'll leave myself in the councillor's hands.
Councillor O'Connor, that's a hard act to follow, but you can speak to the amendment as well if you wish. Not Councillor O'Connor, Councillor Johnston. I do know who is who. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I support that. I think we've gone to consultation. There are concerns about being listed, that property listing, because of what they want to do. And I think it gives them the time, if we remove it now, it gives them the time to continue dialogue with city officers and go through a plan and present a design and go through the iteration process to ensure that they can get the sort of extension that they would like. And they can then still go onto a heritage listing if it, as I'm sure it would still satisfy. Thank you. You look a bit confused, Councillor Burns.
Okay. Look, I think we've heard two speak for. Can we have a speaker against the amendment at this point? Okay, we'll take a speaker for or against. Councillor De Vries.
Yeah, I'm not absolutely sure if it's for or against. As you know, I did put up what I thought was going to be an amendment and it became an alternative. But look, I think the issue is really what both Councillor Burns and Councillor Johnson and myself were looking at is when the community raised fairly legitimate concerns that we have a consultative process, that we'd like to see that through. And I did actually amend my original alternative to 12 months, and that was simply to give new councillors who'd come on in October this year the opportunity to become fully aware of the issue. It was for a deferral, but this idea of consulting with the community really needs to be fleshed out. We need to understand that a consultative process where we give the community the opportunity for feedback and then say, well, we're not listening to your feedback. And this is my issue with all of the responses. You know, nobody here objects to heritage listing, and I don't feel pressured at all, Councillor Kosovic, not a tiny bit. I feel that I'm responding to the community in a way that is part of my role, which is to listen. And I know that the discussion has led Mrs. Salvinger to reconsider, which is fantastic, and that was part of the point of this tonight, was so that the community understands that a consultative process can be ongoing. If that consultation isn't robust, if that doesn't reassure, and I actually do want to say that's not just one resident, there's 4 residents, and they actually had really great objections. They had really good reasons, and I feel that they were just kind of gone, well, here's the response. And that's my issue here. I mean, that's why I'm going to support this amendment, not because I actually in principle think that we should, it's just willy-nilly change things. I fully support this guidelines around heritage and creating communities which, really respect the past. Obviously, history is really important. But we also need to respect the fact that this is a community, and our buy-in to our little democracy here in local government is that we do our consultation processes and make people feel that they're part of it. Now, whether or not this is, this is what the resident currently wants, I'm not quite sure now. So, I'm fairly sure that, that may no longer be the case. But we can't, this isn't just about that. This is about deferring it doesn't mean it won't happen down the track. But I understand from staff that we need to consider all 5 of these houses to make it a heritage have heritage significance. So, you know, there is that complication. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth.
Thanks, Councillor De Vries. Just on that note about the 5 places, it was brought to my attention by staff a moment ago that the listing is for a group of 5. It's not for a listing of 5 discrete places. So perhaps we can get advice from the Director of Development Services or the manager about what it means in terms of heritage assessment if you take away one place and then it's a group of 4. Does that compromise the exercise in some way?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So these properties were considered as a group of 5 because it was in a development context and pattern many years ago that they were constructed in a similar style. So as a group, they have the strength in numbers and the strength in the heritage and significance. So by removing one property, you would likely we would actually need to conduct an individual assessment of the other properties because they have been undertaken as one. What I would say and what I'm hearing though, and I would like to congratulate Ms. Selfinger on restoring and renovating her property. I did try to respond to you, and I think we have listened to your feedback. You got it? Yeah, thank you. And
well, perhaps instead of having a conversation, we can get to that. But so, I mean, does it lead to any sensible heritage outcome if we take the group of 5 heritage places and just remove one? I suppose is the question for present purposes, and then we'll get on to Ms. Selfinger's concerns in a sec.
From a heritage point of view, removing one wouldn't make much sense given the way they've been considered.
Okay, thanks. I do have another question, and I'd kind of flagged it during public statements. I know the statement wasn't framed as a question, but I would be interested in a staff response to one of the final sentences of Ms. Selfinger's statement. Essentially, you can boil down her statement to a proposition that if I'm allowed to build the extension my family of 5 need, then I'll be comfortable not objecting to the heritage listing. Since then, we've had verbal cues which suggests that that you're not objecting in any case. So I don't really know where this leaves us in terms of our debate, other than to perhaps just get to the vote as soon as possible. But look, Director of Development Services, can you comment on that? If I'm allowed to build my extension, then I'm comfortable not objecting. Is what we're proposing preventing the extension? Can it potentially accommodate a future extension?
Thank you. And through your question, a heritage listing would likely support an extension and a variation to the building heights because there would be the retention of existing heritage fabric. So it would likely be a strength in an argument through clause 12 of the deemed provisions which are read into our scheme. So no, a heritage listing would not prevent that, and it would likely support an argument for a minor change as is proposed.
Okay, councillors, speakers for or against the amendment before I put the amendment to the vote? Yes, it is the only amendment in relation to C3. Councillor Johnston. Sure. A question from Councillor Johnston.
Thank you. Just on that, just to really clarify, so the owner of 83 Heytesbury, that extension that they want to do seems pretty fundamental, that they want an extra 1 metre in height. So if that's visible from the streetscape, that still wouldn't preclude them from being able to do that if they had a heritage listed property. Is that correct?
Thank you for your question. There's always discretion involved in a planning decision, so there is an ability to consider that extra height, and you council are the decision maker or through delegated authority, you'd be considering that factor, but also the factor in the retention of the heritage house as well, the materiality used. So there are sensible ways that you are able to have an extension that might be slightly visible from the street from one angle, but I would say that given the roof pitch and the construction of the current house, it's probably going to be within the line of sight in any event.
Okay, I've received some, I don't know if it's a governance advice or a governance question, but it's essentially what is it we're going to be voting on. At the moment, the words 83 Lot 1 Deposit Plan 974 is struck out. Someone's staff have put in the word 4 places, which I suppose makes more logical sense. It doesn't make heritage sense based on the previous advice, but what is the intent? I think I'll ask the mover and the seconder of the amendment, Councillor Burns and Councillor Johnston, to clarify. Are you saying that a group of 4 places would be listed?
Yeah. Yes, is my answer, and I'm really now leaning more back to actually voting for my own amendment, which was in doubt a second ago. Look, to clarify the wording, it is 4, and I'm noting that it's the middle of the 4, so I don't think the group is in any danger, especially considering the word, what's been done on it. So as I see it up there, it's now 4, and it's 2 either side of 83, which might fall into line later. That's what I'm asking for. Thank you.
Okay, I think we've got clarity on what we're going to be voting on. Are there speakers for or against the amendment?
Three on one side, one on the other. Yep.
Right.
I was just checking because...
Okay, look, I think this conversation highlights some of the risk that comes with moving amendments from the floor, but I think we've got the clarity now that we were seeking. It's a group of 4 places, and it's the remaining lots listed with number 83 removed. I don't see any others. Councillor O'Connor, do you want to speak to the amendment? Question? Yep.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Under the proposed amendment, would the statement of significance for the group require amending? The first statement says that the group has cultural heritage significance for their very high aesthetic contribution as a group of early 20th century houses in a largely intact Heytesbury Road streetscape. I wonder whether it would still be a largely intact streetscape if one element was missing from that group.
Director of Development Services. Well, no, okay. Look, the CEO is concerned we're entering into debate. I think you know the answer to this question, Councillor O'Connor, but perhaps you do, perhaps you don't. You're a heritage practitioner, but I think the point is that the staff member has already said that removal of one place doesn't make sense. So I suppose in light of your question, can you just confirm your advice, Mr. Petrovsky, about whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't, and if this apparently simple amendment would go on to require an amendment of the statement of significance? Is there more to it than just this apparently simple amendment that's needed?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yes, it's not simple. We would need to amend the statement of significance because they essentially 83 and 85 are abutting each other, and it wouldn't make sense if this one was removed.
The amendment is as shown on the screen at the moment, which would be that only one dwelling is taken out of the group of 5 heritage places. And as I think the director has quite clearly said, it is a group of 5 that are considered to have this heritage significance. Taking one away out of that group of 5 yields an illogical result from a heritage perspective. If councillors are all clear on that and they've got enough clarity on what we're voting for, what the implications are, I think everyone who's spoken has spoken. Everyone who's asked questions has asked those questions. So I think it's appropriate to put the amendment to the vote. Well, I think what you're doing is advocating for us to vote against your amendment, but there's 8 councillors and a mayor who have to make the decision at this point. So I'm going to... yes, Councillor Powell.
Sorry, Mayor, I haven't spoken, so I thought...
Oh, lucky last, Councillor Powell. Okay.
Well, it's not going to be a very long statement, Mayor. Look, there's... I think the staff have pointed out, there's also advantages in having heritage listing, and one of them for this residence would be free architectural advice, heritage architectural advice, the possibility of heritage grant, and more flexible planning. So I think in my...
Yeah, mine's working.
Okay, councillors, I think we're back online. Councillor Powell, you were debating.
We know who's responsible. Is that a sign?
Good, thank you. Don't know about debating. I thought I was waxing eloquent. As I say, as I was trying to say, there are certain advantages to listing. And look, we have a heritage policy. I can't see much point in having a policy if we don't try and follow it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, a final chance to debate on the amendment. Otherwise, I'm going to call the vote on the amendment. Councillor Johnston, a question.
Thank you. Just how much is the heritage grant? Thank you. Through you, Mayor.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Generally matched up to $5,000.
Okay, I'm going to very gingerly suggest we call the vote now on the amendment. We'll do that now. I've pressed the wrong button. I'd accidentally voted for the amendment. Okay, well, look, in any case, the amendment's lost. It's lost by either 2-6 or 3-6. We'll sort that out in the minutes, but just confirming there was a clerical error from one of the voters. We'll seek governance advice out of the meeting. User error. In any case, the amendment's lost. So we're back on C3 as recommended by staff. There is no amendment. Councillor O'Connor and Kosovich have had a chance to speak. I'll ask if there's any speakers against C3 at this point. Otherwise, I'll take speakers for or against. Any speakers against? No. Okay. Councillor De Vries, a speaker against C3.
Look, again, this isn't really speaking against heritage, because heritage preservation is at the core of what we value in our community. We are preserving history, we're preserving beautiful homes, but we also need to recognise that this is a consultation process. And when people are asked the question, invited to be part of something, and then go to the work of, doing independent research or have done independent research or have a perspective that might be slightly different, that might have a nuanced view that, this was a home where business was conducted by a prominent historical figure as opposed to a primary residence, that they've had, many years of preserving and improving their properties, and then suddenly they're told, now you're going to be part of this group, which is a special group, acknowledged, where you get grants, you get advice, but as part of this special group, we will put you into this, heritage listed properties. Now, I don't object to this in the tiniest bit. I think it's a great credit to our community. It's a great way of protecting our community. Just a couple of things. I doubt that any of those people will be demolishing their property. We are not in such a huge rush that we couldn't at least provide them with, give it another 6 months. Like right now, tonight, I can tell there's an appetite to pass this. That's perfectly fine. But why couldn't we have gone back to those people who objected and spent longer? What was the rush? Like, I understand it's a group. Yes, it's going to be a beautiful group. That work that was done by the owners who put that money into it, created this, probably quite rundown homes into these beautiful aesthetic homes. Yes, granted, that's going to be great for the future. We can accommodate families. I saw the objections to my alternative and I'm like, yep, I'm sure we can accommodate families. But asking people into a conversation and then saying, no, we're shutting that conversation now and you disagree with us and we know better, I actually think that's not good enough. I think we need to do better. I think we need to make sure our conversation with the community on issues where we consult with them, when they object, is done robustly. And if that means another 6 months, that would have just been 4, actually probably not, it would have been a group of 5 and an additional 2. Now, I'm not going to sit here tonight and say I, have a strong, passionate view that we should, look at my alternative. Obviously, that would just confuse things. But I think we do need to recognise where there are weaknesses in a process and where, as a community, we have the duty not only to ensure that we protect the future of Subiaco, but also we protect people's feelings. This isn't just illogical responses. All of those responses I read time and time again were really well written. So when I sit here tonight and I feel a little annoyed because people might suggest I feel pressured, there's nothing to do with that. This is to do with how we build consensus. And we don't build consensus on a process when we simply tell people what to do. And that's the problem. It's how we are relating to people. Let's be really clear. We need consensus. We need social cohesion. This is a time where social cohesion is very, very important. Heritage it might be, but it's very important to our community that we protect it. We saw in the past how really shallow people like, a certain developer who's no longer with us, knocked down huge amounts of St. George's Terrace. We've seen disrespect to the real fabric of heritage of our society, with these beautiful buildings that were built with magnificent architecture just sent to rubble. So maybe people feel it's a bit kind of like you're putting all the responsibility for keeping the heritage of society on me, the landowner, maybe people feel a bit indignant about that, because we have seen developers just rip apart beautiful heritage in our city, not Subiaco, but Perth. So this is my argument. I support this. I actually will support it, because I don't want to vote against something that's so important. But I want us to have a conversation, and a proper conversation with our community, that we listen to you, we hear you, all right? That's really what I want to say. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Jones.
I'll just speak briefly. I fully take on board Councillor De Vries's point about consultation, and I agree that that's very important. But since we're debating the substantive, this also comes with heritage grants and things, and I think rejecting it would be denying all those other people the opportunity to have those heritage grants at this point, which is why I'm going to continue.
Any other speakers? Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen, and my apologies for the last part of your life that you're never going to get back. So I'll move forward. Having been somebody that's been around a little longer than most, I take the advantage, albeit it's not legal, but technology has entered the chamber. A long time ago, things were typed up and unless it was recorded in writing and you saw the vote afterwards, what was said and things didn't seem to matter. Now, it might not be legal, but promises have been made with regards to flexibilities that should give comfort to people that are sitting with us, where confusion. So you can, the recordings of these meetings will never go away. Right, and indications from members of our teams have been made by councillors, have accepted understandings, and that's how we're voting. So I think where people are nervous, I would hope some feeling of comfort can be garnered from the fact that that these statements are with us forever now. So I support it, and again I apologise for time taken, but it's probably a good thing at the end of the day. Thanks very much.
Any other speakers? Okay, there's an opportunity to close. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mayor McMullen. Thank you for some very robust debate. I'd like to thank Councillor Powell for outlining the benefits to owners of being on the heritage list. These benefits are important, as no matter how wonderful the restoration work that's been done to date, and some of it is absolutely fantastic work will continue to be needed to be done in the future. And speaking to Councillor De Vries's concerns, as I stated when I moved this item, there are times when it's difficult to reassure owners about the implications of having their properties added to a heritage list, and sometimes it's impossible to get that consensus. And unfortunately, it's not possible to give people the absolute reassurance that they'll be able to build the extension that they absolutely want to, or make the changes that they want to. Because just as heritage places are all individually different, so too are their development plans. Until we see those, we can't be certain. It's only when they're submitted that you're going to get that certainty. But I am confident that the owners will find that the consequences of being on the heritage list are minimal and that there are significant benefits. Thank you.
Okay, I will call the vote. Okay, the item's carried unanimously as per the officer recommendation with a vote of 8-0, and we will call Councillor White back into the chamber. Okay, councillors, we're back on for item C4. This has an absolute majority voting requirement, and it's the agenda item relating to fees and charges for electric vehicle charges. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer recommendation on C4? Councillor Burns, thank you. Councillor O'Connor, thank you. Councillor Burns. Councillor O'Connor. Does anyone want to debate C4? Okay, I'll call the vote then on C4. Very good. C4 is carried unanimously. We'll move on to C5, which is no longer the subject of a proposed amendment. C5, of course, relates to the draft council plan for community consultation. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer recommendation? Councillor Powell moving and Councillor Kostovich seconding. Councillor Powell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And look, I pulled this from en bloc because we're putting it out for public consultation, and I think the more publicity that's given to it, the better. And look, the council plan, it's Subi's book for what we want Subi to look like for over the next decade, as the council sees it. But you know, I mean, really, it's pretty hard to get people excited about just another government book amongst thousands. So, so while it might lack any immediate sort of wow appeal, a lot of time and effort has gone into it. And one way to put it is, if residents want to know where their rates are going to be spent over the next 10 years, this is the book for you. It's a guiding document of the city's vision, and it's the result of extensive community consultation and surveys. And a lot of effort's also gone into making it an easy read. You want to know what the plan is for sustainability, or our parks and gardens, or livability, or our greening. Indeed, everything the council does, this is your guide. This is where you can go to get a start on the information that you need. As the Mayor points out in the forward, it builds on what we've achieved over the past few years, from things like a new lease of life for our library, to creating a new pocket park in the centre of the city, to less sexy things like upgrading the drainage to meet climate change. Or one that I'm really quite fond of is becoming the first WA certified carbon neutral council. And this builds on those achievements, and then not only talks about that, but talks about what we want to do and addresses how we're going to measure success, which I think is really important and something that's been lacking somewhat in the past. Measuring how successful we are in achieving our goals. And look, I think another good thing, addition to this report, is risk assessment, because every decision we make carries some degree of risk, and what those risk factors may be, like changes to local or international economics, or changes in government policy, you know, a whole host of things are taken into account. So, look, while it might be difficult to get people G'd up about a council plan, I do hope the community takes an interest, because it will directly affect our residents over the next decade. So I commend it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kosovich.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start by acknowledging the staff and the excellent work in their excellent work in compiling the draft community plan under the diligent leadership of Director Wollaston. Just a reminder that this draft community plan is a comprehensive document that consolidates both our strategic community plan and the corporate business plan, and has involved a significant number of workshops over the past 12 months, and many hours were put into this. And I know we had the butcher's paper up, and we looked around the walls, and everyone engaged, and it was in terms of council coming together to work as a team, to have input into a document that is going to be relevant for the next 10 years. It was a very, very rewarding personal experience. And I know this will go out into the community, and I believe it'll be well received, because it's been really well done. And those things are noted. And I would like to thank our CEO for his good work as well, and the Mayor, who sat in those meetings as well. And we've come up with a comprehensive draft community plan that will serve us well for the next 2 years, and I commend it to you. Thank you.
What's the amendment?
I'd like to just suggest. It was 30 days we just chose last time. So.
Okay, yeah, confirming you didn't have your microphone on, but you're proposing an amendment so that consultation will occur for a period of at least 30 days?
That's what we said, yeah.
Okay, does Councillor De Vries seconding the amendment, are the mover and the seconder happy to take it on board without debate?
Just a quick question. Will it upset any time? Will this upset the timetable of the... Not there going on.
Director Corporate Services.
Through you, Mayor. It will just mean that there's less time to consider the submissions. So I think it will have submissions close around close to the end of May. And we've got a workshop to consider all of the submissions on the 3rd of June. And we would need the document to be published by around the 10th of June. So it just condenses that time frame, but it's still possible. It just means that if there is a large volume or quite a lot to discuss, there's less time to consider it.
Yep.
Seconder, what do you think about the amendment?
Yes, I accept the amendment.
Councillor Kosovich is agreeable and Councillor Powell agreeable also. We will take that amendment as carried and forming part of the item that's in front of us. Do I have any speakers on C5 as it now reads? Councillor De Vries.
Thank you for putting that amendment up. In fact, in my original proposal that we send this out to all residents as a written response, I did include the 28 days as the time frame. So thank you very much. Look, the reason I didn't go forward with that is because, look, that costs money. And that's paper. And recently, the community have been receiving lots and lots of electoral material, and I think they might just be feeling a little bit over it. So I thought that it might end up in the bin, which wouldn't be a very good outcome. And then there was a time delay. So that's the reason for pulling it. But the reason that I'm so happy that it's on the table tonight is that the community should know how important this is. It has been said that these are quite high-level statements. They look like they're motherhood statements to some extent, but as Councillor Powell mentioned, a huge amount of thinking and work has gone behind this because it's now two documents in one. It's the strategic community plan, and it's the corporate. What is it? The corporate, business plan. So what we actually having is this rolled into one, which makes it a lot easier for the community to see the direction of our strategic community plan and how it links with corporate business plans. So it's actually a really great document to have. And I think the community should really put some time and thought into what they want to say. And I've recently had conversations with the tree canopy people in Subiaco who are so keen to keep that conversation going, how we can protect our trees, how we can do better. And I know we already do incredibly well. We already have some of the best tree canopy in the city of Perth. In the whole of Perth metropolitan region. So I think what we actually have here is something that's aspirational, but where people can really get their teeth into it and say, oh, well, this is where we could head with this. And it can create conversations. So what I'm really hoping that when we advertise this, we really make it clear to the community, this is how you can respond. Because often when people go, have your say, well, what can people say that might influence this document? So let's hope that the advertising that does go out does make it really open to invite real feedback that can actually, alter the document or, have some future forward thinking in it. And again, thank you to Councillor Powell again for bringing that off the table so we could discuss it. That was always my intention, but thank you for achieving that. And again, staff, amazing work. Thank you.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just want to briefly say what an exciting experience it was to be involved in this, and would also commend staff on the work that they did in guiding us, and also reaching out to community because there's been quite a bit of community consultation and engagement already undertaken to get to this point. And I feel that the document is a real testament to the work that's been done. I think it also demonstrates a level of maturity of our organisation. It's a really clear document. It is high level. It's designed to be high level. The more detailed work goes on below and falls out of it. And I hope and would urge the community to really engage with it and read it closely and come back to us with comments. Thank you.
Excellent. Other speakers? Councillor Powell, do you want to close?
Very brief comment, Mayor. Look, I'd just like to thank the other speakers for their comments, and also mention the amount of work done by staff, which was quite considerable and I think very good. Okay, thank you.
I'll call the vote. Okay, fantastic. C5's carried unanimously, and I think it's appropriate to thank councillors and congratulate you also. You've acknowledged staff, but you can't very well acknowledge yourselves, so I'll do that for you. There's been some incredible work that you've put in alongside our staff and consultants. Okay, there's one more agenda item to move and second, and that is C6, the presiding and deputy presiding members of council committees. We're, of course, proposing to reappoint existing presiding members and deputy presiding members in order to comply with new legislation. So I'll seek a mover and a seconder for C6. Councillor Burns, thank you, and Councillor O'Connor seconding. Councillor Burns. Councillor O'Connor. No one wanting to debate this one? Good, I'll call the vote on C6. Thank you, councillors. One councillor's missing in action. Yeah, okay. We've got a unanimous vote on C6. Thank you, councillors. C7 and C8 were carried en bloc. There were no elected member motions submitted with notice this month. No urgent business that I'm aware of. No confidential items this evening, so I'll therefore declare the meeting closed at 7:31 p.m. Thank you, councillors, for all your contributions, and thank you, staff, for assisting us this evening.